How do you get a Silicon Valley level product without a Silicon Valley office or a price tag? Our guest today has cracked the code. He's built a 100% remote 40-person product development company, leveraging the high-end talent in Colombia. Welcome back to the Adapt AI podcast Spotlight series, where we shine a light on the inspiring stories and innovative strategies of changemakers and disruptors shaping the future of business. Want to stay ahead too? Click subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Haley, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Andrés Díaz, the founder of Innobo, a remote-based company that's revolutionizing the way businesses in the logistics sector approach process optimization. Andrés, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Can you just start by introducing
Great,
yourself
great.
and sharing, thank you, a bit, share with us a little bit about your journey that led you to create Innobo.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's my pleasure. And thank you for having me. I'm Andres from Innobo. I've been doing business with my company for 6 years already, but I worked in the logistics space, or at least always related to logistics activities since I was 18. So for over 13 years, I would say I worked for different kinds of businesses that always involve logistics, right? Like everything. So I started purchasing and exporting flowers. Then we moved to importing garments. Then we moved to doing freight forwarding and helping like big clothing brands expand all over the continent in Latin America. And then due to those experiences, I became an expert at software and implementation. Software mostly for logistics businesses.
Right.
But at the same time, that is very aligned with my innate talents, right? It's just the way I see things, the way I always want to do things, the way I want to always do less work and get better results is what has always driven me to continuously adapt to new technologies and new tools and always be somehow reinventing myself and my business to achieve that, right? And also naturally, I do the same for my clients. I am not the type of company who promises something that we don't even do for ourselves. It's actually the other way around. I'm always so busy working on my own business so that I can, free up some time to then be of more use for my clients and my own internal team. And so I feel like I am a consultant, both external and internal. That's who I am.
Got it. So you've built this company. What was the gap that you saw in the market that made you build this specific nearshore model and then outsource it?
It started with one reason, but then it continues to evolve. And it's still to this day, I'm always looking for opportunities or kind of taking advantage of opportunities that are presented to me by accident most of the time. Like, for instance, the first time I decided to start a business was because I was in Miami running an operation. I was in charge of implementing software in a full operation of importing flowers, then moving them from the airport to a cooler, and then once in the cooler, fulfilling orders from our clients, right? So flowers is a very delicate product, and then I had to hire people, train people, create the processes in the system, do all the accounting, do all the payments, and I was so busy. It was St. Valentine's in modern day, so it was crazy. So I finally told my boss at the time, "Hey, I need assistance. Please hire somebody in Colombia," because we were all based off Colombia anyway. That only works for me. Please don't give her any other duties. I just want her for me. I will train her and I will delegate all the billing part to her and the bookkeeping. And then he did that. I trained this person. She was great. I loved working with her. So I delegated a part, and then I realized eventually, what if I had that in a business? Somebody in Colombia, assisting US companies do all the heavy lifting in software and accounting, right? So that's how the original idea came to be. But at the same time, because I was an expert at that software that my clients use, which is called Magaya, I decided, okay, why not being also a consultant and help those clients take advantage of the system? Because I realized when I was training my own team that people used to do a lot of manual work, used to do a lot of typing, used to do a lot of, inefficient ways of doing things and not taking advantage of the tools that system had and not understanding data and not understanding the structure and stuff like that. So I decided, okay, let's also provide that as a service. And then by discovering the actual needs of the clients is how my offering evolved, right? So eventually I learned how to code in JavaScript But then eventually I hired a programmer because I don't care about being coding all the time, right? And then some client told me, Andres, can you do this data entry work for me? So I realized, okay, there's another opportunity there. Let's hire somebody who specializes in data entry. And then another client told me, hey, why don't you better hire somebody for me that works in Colombia, but then it's kind of part of my payroll. And then I created the staffing division. And it's always been reacting to actual needs that has developed my business offering, including Innobo Hub, which is our platform that is a platform that connects different software and integrates them. It's always been also created based on actual customer feedback plus my vision of how things should be, because I know, the actual needs, what the market is lacking, and I say I'm never short of ideas. So
Yeah, it seems to me that you're very
that's
good really at, spotting those opportunities based on like the problems that your clients present to you. And then what I like about your strategy is, as you said, you're reactive, but I think it's more of like a responsive kind of mindset wherein you don't just sit on the idea, you just act on it straight away. And I remember that you mentioned it earlier as well. You have this innate talent to, shorten the process instead of just working so hard on it. If there's a way to like limit the timeline, you just solve the problem right away. Am I?
right. Yeah, I mean that's right. You're correct, but also at the same time, when you look at it from the business owner perspective, you really have to commit to whatever you start offering. Like if I offer staffing now, who is gonna hire people? Who is gonna interview them? Who is gonna calculate their payroll and their social security? So even if you have one employee outsourced with the staffing division, now you have a new division and you have to develop it. You have to grow it, sell it, and make it profitable. So that's, I would say, the trickiest part of every single idea that I have come up with. And I don't want to sound like I'm bragging about the success, but also I have made many mistakes, and I have also had these ideas that never worked, right? That I wasn't ready for. I didn't have the team, so I had to stop at a certain point. But most of them, luckily, I've been able to manage how to grow them, plan them, and execute them, and delegate them to somebody else, so I'm not involved in them anymore. Like, for instance, staffing and bookkeeping. It's been years since I have no conversations at all with clients in those divisions because they don't need me anymore, because I created the process so well that there's a leader for each of them, right? And that's what I try to do with every single idea and division that I create in the company.
Nice, nice. I'll get back to what you said about, you've made some mistakes and there are some ideas that didn't come to fruition. You just stop it. Before I ask a little bit about that, I'd like to know, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in like finding and retaining the right talent to support your growing team and your clients who come to you like, Andres, find me, an accountant as well. Because initially you started with for your own needs. You started with having someone to support you and you trained that and she was effective, she was efficient. And then eventually, you were able to help your clients as well have the same pool of talent that you were able to tap. Like walk us through that. Has there been any challenges when it comes to finding talent in Colombia for you?
I cannot think of challenges really in most of my areas. So this is probably gonna sound super romantic, but it's true, and that's actually what happened. So the first thing that you need to consider here is that I was a really small company, tiny company, only me, no funding, no money, no nothing, just opportunities and the will to pursue them and make them profitable, right? So when we started to need people, then I wasn't going after professionals or people with degrees or anything like that. And the main reason why is because for those 13 years that I was an employee,
Mm,
I was probably one of the lowest pay grades in the company, right? And then my boss always used to hire that people from the top universities at Columbia with a lot of degrees, assign them responsibilities, then they miserably failed, and then all those responsibilities always fell back on me, who wasn't. I don't have a degree at all. I mean, I
mm,
never finished college or anything like that. I don't care. I never care.
yeah.
So I realized that despite how much he was paying me, I was
Mhm.
capable of doing it. And I don't think I'm anything special. I think that there's a lot of people out there who have the same capability. In my case, I didn't even have a guidance or a trainer or anything like that. My boss trusted me so much that he just knew I would figure it out, and that was it. Right, that was my training. You figure
Mhm.
it out and do it. That's it. And another thing that helps a lot is I never said no to anything because
Mhm.
I'm always up for a challenge.
Mhm.
So I figure there must be people out there. At the time when I started working with that person, I was 18 years old. So I figured there must be more people, young people, old people, doesn't matter as long as they have the attitude and the will to do stuff, right? And
Mhm.
that's how I started hiring. It's more like from the guts, the gut feeling of that they're going to work. I like how they speak to me. I always, absolutely always, that I interview anybody, I just making share screen in their computers and I just tell them, show me what you can do in Excel.
Mhm.
I don't tell them anything specific. I don't tell them like what software to, nothing like that. Just
Mhm.
because by seeing how they use the keyboard, use the mouse, I know if they are efficiency driven or not. Right? It's as simple as that. But then
Mhm.
eventually through the years, and because I've been in a lot of coaching, because the only way to get better at something is being surrounded by people that are way better than you.
Yeah.
I discovered the Clifton Strength Test, which measures your innate talents, and
Mhm.
then now that's my thermometer to hire people. I don't care what degrees they have, what career they study, nothing. All I care about is their natural talents because that will tell me if they're fit for the job or not.
Right.
Right?
That's amazing. So you've assessed what your strengths are through the Clifton, and then from that model, that's the one that you also leverage in hiring the right people. Because I was also wondering as you were sharing that, you're someone when you started, as you said, you don't say no, you just do it and you learn on the ground. Um, and it's
Right.
I could see some, I would say, younger generation who may not be as driven as you are. So did you find
Right.
any challenges, Greg,
Right.
did you find any challenges with finding those kind of,
Right.
not
So
about the talent, but the mindset,
yeah.
and the drive to work?
Yeah, sorry about that. So, a couple of things just to finish answering your question. So, one thing is that one of my talents, probably the first one, is I am a maximizer. So,
Mhm.
I'm always taking advantage of anything I can get my hands on, right? So, that includes people. Now, I know that I cannot make people do everything because then they become good at nothing. And I
Mhm.
do believe in specialization, and I believe that people become great at something when they focus on that specific activity and master it. So,
Mhm.
for instance, in my bookkeeping division, I usually bookkeeping, let's say, clerks are just bookkeepers. They do everything. In my business, I from the very beginning separated accounts receivable, account payable, and then some kind of an accountant to do all the reporting and stuff. So I
Mhm.
always had specific roles for all my clients. So that was way easier to train and to build processes on, right? And
Mhm.
then in terms of challenges in mindset and people, I never had one. The only position that I know we have suffered it's marketing, which is something that we are not great at. I even tried selling marketing as a service. That's one of the failures of my history. And
Mhm.
and it was really difficult to get a marketer to understand the actual pains of the industry, right? Like they are good at marketing, but they have no idea at logistics about
Mhm.
logistics. So they cannot do marketing for logistics then, right? It's that simple. So that's the only challenge that I have. And now I do want to make clear that talent test and all those things and that gut feeling in order to hire people is for my internal team. For all
Right.
the staffing division, that is definitely based on the customer profile that they're looking for. So in that case, experience, education, and all of that matters. I mean, matters to them because they're the client who wants to hire. But
Yeah.
if it was up to me, I would never look at experience
Yeah.
or formation.
That's good. That's good because it's more of like the way I can see it is you are duplicating yourself in order to be able to do these other tasks. And as you said, you believe in specialization.
Totally.
You use your time more in what you're good at versus like doing something that you might not be even where your passion is, and then you're just maybe that's not a good use of time and your skills as well. So I resonate with that as well. Just going back to, apart from the mistakes that you said you've made along the way when you were building Innobo, how did you get started with getting clients initially? Because that's normally
Oh,
the startup kind of challenges that entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs or have or will be experiencing. Like what was that like for you?
So it was my main concern when I started, especially because I started with bookkeeping, and bookkeeping involves um, exposing your financial information to somebody you don't even know and somebody that is in another country, right?
Mhm.
So right after I started the business, the pandemic hits, and the pandemic made everything go virtual, go Zoom, go e-signature, go remote. So
Mhm.
that solved my problem. So I just started. Actually, my ex-wife, who still is my business partner, see, we work together almost every day.
Mhm.
She started contacting people in the logistics industry.
Mhm.
She started looking at LinkedIn and websites and stuff like that, and contacting people through LinkedIn messages
Mhm.
until eventually we landed one client for bookkeeping, and then a
Mhm.
couple more found us on Google,
Mhm.
and then they referred us to more and more and more and more, and that's how we have managed to grow this part. It's mostly referrals nowadays, and some other clients found us on Google because even though we had no clients at all, I was already building a structure like if I had 10 clients. And that's always been my mindset, right? I had no clients, but I'm ready for 10. Meaning I have a CRM, I have a ticketing system, I have an accounting system, I have everything that they might need. So I look professional to their eyes, right? And then that's how I gain their trust to begin with. And then after those five original clients, and then my next goal was let's be ready for 50 or for 20 because it's going to be more demanding. So more people, more tools, more automation, blah, blah, blah. And that's always been my life since then, right? And then those original clients started referring us to other companies in the same space. And that's how we managed to grow this spot.
So, Andres, you mentioned earlier that you were able to, you were preparing for 10 clients. What helped you have that innate knowing that you will get 10 clients? What was that like for you? Because you were preparing for it, even if there's no evidence yet that there will be 10 clients for Innobo.
Right. Yeah. There wasn't any evidence of even one. What happened is when I was a Magaya customer, we have access within Magaya to a network of users. And I knew that in the States alone, there were like 1,000 companies that use Magaya. So I figured, okay, 10 out of 1,000, it's impossible that I don't get that in a year after starting the business. Right. So I had a market size in mind, right? And then from zero, from idea to first client, it was about 2 years because first of all, I was an employee.
Mhm.
When I had this idea of the bookkeeping, because I hired the lady in Colombia and all these things. So that's where the idea clicked. But then a few months passed, then I quit. Then I started working on let's say building the structure of the company, at least theoretically, right? Like trying to figure out what tools am I going to need, what tools am I going to use, what actual tools am I going to pay for, and how am I going to use them and all of that. And then I ran out of money, so I had to get another job. But
Mhm.
then I decided I'm going to get a part-time job because if I commit fully to a job, I'm going to be an employee again for another 13 years. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted to be a business owner. I mean, I wanted to create this business because I knew the opportunity was there.
Mhm.
So I worked part time until I started developing the business fully. And then when I landed the first client, I delegated that to that lady that was my assistant back in the day. I hired her also part time. I continued my part time job. And then when I reached like five clients and I was billing, I don't know, $1,500, $2,000 a month, which is good enough to make a living in Colombia for two people, I decided to quit. And then my only option was my own business.
That's amazing. I like how you actually started your journey, because it seems like you really wanted to do this business. And there must be a driving force within you that you wanted to not be working for another company anymore. However, you didn't just let it stop you when you know that you needed the money for the business. You worked for another job again. You did part-time job, because I see a lot of entrepreneurs out there, or aspiring entrepreneurs, who would be like, "Oh, I just want to quit my 9 to 5 job and start this business." But in order to fund that dream, you have to still be it's either you have a big savings or you get an investor. And most investors
Investor
out
or
there,
something.
yeah, most investors out there do not just fund ideas. There has to be
No.
a model existing that's proven to be profitable before they even like put money down. So I think that's a great character to be to how should I put it, to nurture in any type of businesses, if you are an aspiring entrepreneur, would you agree that that's something that you have, you know, embodied?
Totally. I mean, I consider myself very resilient because with my previous work experience, I had many hardships. I mean, my ex boss was a mess. So he was a financial mess, or he went from bankruptcy to bankruptcy. And I learned exactly what not to do when you are an entrepreneur, which is a very valuable lesson that nobody teaches you in the university. So I learned that from experience, and I had to face the issues myself. I was the first line of defense because he didn't even face them for himself, you know? So that was my responsibility as well. So I learned how to deal with a lot of pressure, with a lot of inconvenient situations. I knew how to handle that. Plus, I've always been very patient and calm. So it's a powerful combination when it comes to believing in your plans and trusting they're gonna happen if you put enough work on them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's part of it. Now you mentioned about the driving force of not being an employee, and this is really funny because it's still the main driving force, and it has nothing to do with business or money.
Mhm.
My driving force has always been music. I am a musician. I actually right now study audio production, and I write songs and I record them and I do all of that stuff. And I've always wanted to afford time and money to do it. Right? It's not like I don't want to be famous or rich or anything like that. I just need 20 hours a week so I can focus on music. Still not there yet, but working on that. And I
Mhm.
need a few $1,000s to be able to buy equipment, record, promote, and all of that. So that's really what drives me since I can remember.
That's
Right.
beautiful.
So I knew that if I was an employee once again, especially in Bogota, in Bogota, you drive an average of an hour and a half to go from home to work and then back from work to home. So a lot of wasted time. That is what I moved to smaller cities and stuff like that, where that doesn't happen. Plus, I work from home, and that's also why my employees all work from home because I don't want anybody wasting any personal time at all. They just switch off the computer and their shift is over, and now they have time for their families and for their activities, right? Because the same way I am a musician, I know that Laura loves walking with her dog, and I know that Rocio has her children, and I know that everybody has something else
Mhm.
that out of the work life, right? So that's a huge part of it.
That's very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that, Andres, because even with the structure of or the business side of Innobo, it's very strategic. Ultimately the driving force is the soul that's, that how should I put it, the creativity of being an artist and a musician that really sparks your soul, that drives you to actually have that time freedom, which is why I think you
Right.
said earlier, you delegate tasks as well when you can do something more efficiently rather than taking up so much time with that. Now, I would just like to
Yeah.
go back to earlier when you said something about you've made some mistakes along the way. There were some ideas that didn't pan out the way you wanted it. How do you identify
Mhm.
when to actually, okay, this idea is not going to work at all? When do you determine, how do you decide which one should you pursue and which one you should just forget about and move on?
Uh, I believe the reason why I married Leslie years ago and why she's still around is because we balance each other really well in those decisions. I am a bit more emotional. Probably that's why I'm a musician as well. And then she is very centered and very sharp, when it comes to making decisions.
Mhm.
So sometimes she pushes too hard, but at the same time, sometimes I hope too much. Right. So again, even at our extremes, we are a good balancing force. So usually I just run it by her. I just tell her like, hey, I want to do this and that and blah blah blah, and then she asks for numbers and customers and hard data, and then she usually tells me I don't think that is a good idea, and sometimes I listen, sometimes I don't, right? Sometimes I don't, but her criteria is very valuable to me, so
Mm.
that's how we decide to shoot down ideas that are not working.
Yeah. So it's important
Now
to,
it hasn't been a lot, right? It has been just a couple. I
yeah.
know it's not been a lot.
Right. So that's important as well to have that sounding board to exchange ideas with, whether, someone that you can trust to share your ideas with. It may not work out, it may work out, but you won't find out until you test it out. So I think
Yeah. I have a very recent experience just to give you an idea of how the dynamics are in terms of especially hiring people and keeping those ideas
Mhm.
alive or just shutting down for good. We've always struggled with marketing, and we have had very qualified and experienced people doing the marketing, and it never worked. So after the last person quit, um, I started interviewing again, and then I discovered this, I believe, 20 years old girl with no experience in my industry at all, with little experience in marketing, but
Mhm.
there was something about her in the interview that caught my attention.
Mhm.
And then I told, and she's all happy and has this funny tone when you're speaking to her, like she's a how's that called? Like a TikToker or something like that. It's funny even for me
Yeah.
to watch her express herself.
Yeah.
But something caught my attention, and I asked her to do the click contest, and then I brought her to an interview with Leslie, and Leslie didn't like her at all. She thought she was too immature, too childish, too
Mhm.
girly, too Gen Z probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I told her I appreciate your opinion. I agree with all of that, but I do believe she has what it takes to make it work. And I
Mhm.
hire her anyway. And that's one of those decisions that I don't respect Leslie's opinion,
Mhm.
where it worked out really well. Was the best marketing person we've ever had. He was very grateful to be so young and also undergraduated, working with a company like ours.
Mhm.
And she stayed for a little while, and it was really good. We made a lot of progress with her. So those are the type of things that I tell you we balance really well, but sometimes I just trust my gut because I learned over the years that when I had that gut feeling that I don't always have, because I'm very pessimistic to be honest.
Mhm.
I just follow. I learned how to follow it. I learned
Yeah.
how to convince myself that it's not crazy to follow those ideas because time has proven that I've been right all the time, most of the time, right? So why
Right.
not trust myself?
Exactly.
Now you were saying something before about the challenges of hiring people,
Yeah.
and I almost couldn't find an example because my team is very stable. Even the staffing team is very stable because
Mhm.
my clients are very stable because they're happy, right? So as
Yeah.
long as everybody's satisfied, and I gotta be honest, there are young people and there are graduate people, a lot of single moms, all sort of people that are not fit for the job under the traditional eyes. And
Right.
just because I've given them the opportunity, I guess I have never asked them, but I'm guessing because I given them the opportunity of developing themselves, and also because they became experts at something that is not something that you learn anywhere because it's a very innovative, right? It's what I
Mhm.
create for them as a company and as a procedure. I believe they truly commit to it because they know they are unique in a way. They know that nobody else in the team does what each of them individually do, right? There's a couple of pairs somewhere and stuff like that, but in essence, they are all very committed because of that, because they have seen the struggle, because they see me working up to midnight. And a super fresh example, we landed a new client that imports goods to the Bahamas, right? It's
Mhm.
mostly small packages, and we are doing the billing for them, but we just started yesterday. So
Mhm.
the client has the whole week worth of packages not built, and only yesterday we had access. So last night, about 4 or 5 members stayed up to midnight catching up with the client, and I didn't have to ask anybody to do anything. They just did it, you know? So that's a level of commitment that for whatever reason has been created in the company because I guess they feel like they belong. They don't
Yeah.
feel like a replaceable asset.
That's an amazing culture to build a foundation on. You lead by example, because you created
Oh
the
yeah.
opportunity for these people. They see your commitment as a leader. They just follow. It's really a classic example of lead by example and what leaders should actually do.
Yeah, agreed. And they all know I play guitar. Sometimes I play guitar during Zoom meetings. Um and they all know I want to free up more time so I can give them more of my work so we can all scale, right? Because if I delegate important tasks that I have to somebody, then that person might make more money eventually,
Mhm.
and maybe lead a team or something like that. So as long as we all scale and grow, we will scale and grow, and that's actually satisfying and promising for them.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, one another example that comes to mind in terms of people relationship,
Right.
even though I never considered myself good at leading or being a team player or anything like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
is, for example, my bookkeeping supervisor. I always tell her, I need you to be as free as possible. I don't want you to be busy. I want you to be overseeing everything so that when we land a new customer, you take care of that because I want my best player to take care of a new customer, understand their issues, understand what needs to be done, do it, document it, train somebody else, and then delegate it, and then you're free again,
Yeah.
right? So I'm always fighting with her because I see her working and working and closing tickets and doing things that are supposed to be done by an assistant, not by a supervisor, right?
Right.
But that's kind of the culture that I want everybody to understand.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. I just have to ask because you mentioned a lot of innovation. You mentioned that word a lot. Is that where
Yeah.
Innovo come from? Is that what it means?
Yes. Right. So Innovo means innovative back office. That's how I landed the name. It's
Ah,
similar to how I name my songs. So yeah, it's
it
a word game, right?
it just sparked in me that wait a minute, is that what Innovo means? Because you're very innovative. You find solutions on whatever opportunities have been presented to you. Now, final two questions. I really appreciate your time, Andres, and I'm sure a lot of our audience would be learning a lot from this episode. Looking ahead, what
Nice.
are some of the exciting new developments or innovations you're working on at Innovo that you're particularly excited about?
Uh, all the AI stuff, right? So we're a little late on the AI game, but
Mhm.
the main reason why is because, as I told you, I am a very patient person. Okay. So as I told you, I am a very patient person, and I feel, or sometimes I felt like we were late on the AI game.
Yes.
But it is because nowadays there's new tools and new things every day, right? Like you cannot keep up. So I figure I better wait and settle and digest it a little bit in order to create something that really works and especially something that the market really needs. So
Right.
right now we're working on a lot of integrations between our system and Magaya and other logistics software that will
Mhm.
transform labels, invoices, document into warehouse receipt shipments, pickup orders, like with a click of a button. That's one of the big things that we're doing because that will expedite the receiving process at the warehouse by a lot, right? So everybody will be able to just upload a document and then the warehouse receipt gets created,
Mhm.
uh, automatically. So that's one. We're also working on a pricing bot that you will ask him, please give me rates from Miami to Bogota air for 200 kilos, and it will prepare a quotation for you so you can easily send it to your clients. We're working on an internal knowledge base so that any of our customers can ask Magaya related questions
Mm.
and the AI will reply as if you were talking to me.
Nice. So it's an
Right.
all-in-one
So
platform.
it's all in our hub. Yeah.
Yeah. And oh, so that's the Innova Hub. So you're
That's in our hub.
so there's
Right.
a knowledge base where they can ask about the Magaya software, and then there's also like price quotations and being able to just synchronize everything, which I think is that's what AI powered solutions really help us with these days. It's to create more efficiency in tasks that doesn't have to take time, where we can allocate those tasks for other more
Absolutely.
important things.
And that is client facing stuff like public stuff that I'm going to launch eventually.
Mhm.
But internally for our own team and for me even and client specific custom solutions, there's plenty more as well. Like for instance, right now I'm doing no, I already did it.
Mhm.
It was really difficult to keep up for me next steps after all so many Zoom calls, right? Because Zoom sends you an email, but that's it. What do you do with 1,000 emails? So we created an automation that reads those emails and actually creates the tasks in my project management tool. So I have a one only dashboard where I know exactly what I have to do based on what we spoke about on meetings. Right now, we are working on with this Bahamas market that imports so many goods from the US. We're working on automating the invoice generation since the moment the cargo arrives to the warehouse in Miami. We
Mhm.
trigger a lot of automations and AI agents and stuff like that that will query the custom tariffs of a product and then will calculate the air freight and the duties and everything so that the invoices are almost ready to be submitted into my client's accounting system. in just a few manual clicks. It's crazy. It's a lot of automation in order to better serve and faster our clients.
Amazing, exciting stuff, Andres. Thank you so much for that. Last question. If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice when you were first starting out, what would that be?
When I was starting out with Innobo, when I was starting working as an employee when I was 18.
When you were 18, I think that because that's, I think, when you started having ideas.
Not really. When I was 18, I just started working. I honestly had no north and I wasn't even worried about my future. I was just going with the flow. I was uh, letting the tide take me wherever it could. So I wasn't really worried when I was that young. I started worrying when I grew older. so
When did
so
that
I
realization? Sorry, go ahead.
no, I mean, I would just give advice to my older self
Okay.
rather than my younger self. Because yeah, I was so relaxed. I didn't care about anything. A lot of my employees say that I'm living my second teenage era because I still am relaxed, but now I have 40 people to worry about. So it's
So
not next week.
what would that be? What's that advice that you would give? One
Trust
piece.
yourself. Just trust yourself. Yeah,
Trust.
like work hard, focus, you'll do it.
Well, that's all the time we have. What a masterclass on innovation, trusting your gut, and trusting yourself in business. Andres, thank you for sharing a light on that and for sharing your story on this episode. Where can people find you if they want to reach out and learn more about what Innobo does and Innobo Hub, which is an exciting AI powered solutions that you're offering your clients now?
That will be innobo.co, my website. There's access to everything you need to know about us there. innobo.co. And I'll be happy to discuss any ideas with anybody.
Wonderful. And we'll also have those links or that link on Andres's website in the show notes. If this conversation helped you think differently about your business, the best way to support the show is to do two things. Number one, share this episode with one colleague or a friend or a family member. Number two is hit subscribe right now so you never miss an episode and the next insight. You've been listening to the Adapt AI Podcast Spotlight Series. Thanks for tuning into today's episode. See you on the next one. And that's it.